Hi, I'm Grant Berry. Welcome to the Romans 911 Project podcast, where stepping into the reconnection in the one new man and the fullness of John 17 love and unity is becoming a reality. In each episode, we will begin to drill down into this reconnection message and the final reforms for the ecclesia, for the church. As we will hopefully discover, it becomes a power key to help open the door to God's end time plans for the preparation of the bride, the last great harvest, and Israel's salvation, all of which will ultimately lead us to the Lord's return. The reconnection message has end time consequences for us all. Beloved, I'm so excited to welcome you today to our very first podcast, where we will outline the main message to you, introduce it, as well as the materials that we'll be using for it. And before we start to discuss the Romans 911 project in detail, I want to be as clear as possible in stating the objective. While I focus mainly on this reconnection message in the one new man between Jewish and Gentile believers, it is not the main goal. The objective is to fully restore the love and unity in God's family according to John 17, so that the Father and Yeshua can actually send the fullness of glory upon us. This is our mission. However, I believe that this reconnection message is at the heart of this restoration and is foundational to the rest. So focusing on this part of God's plan first opens the door to the balance. And this is our approach. It's, if you like, it's actually like a golden key and needs to be recognized as such through the church at large to open the door to the end time power, an equation to be released into the body, the end time power of the Lord. Metaphorically speaking, embracing the reconnection message in the love of the Father leads us onto a bridge that we call restoration. This leads God's children from the nations into a reconnection and a realignment with the remnant of Israel relationally. These are Jewish believers in the land and in the nations, which empowers the body to greater healing in all other areas. This reconciliation has everything to do with God's end time plans coming forth during these days. You know, the Lord has given a number of us in the body of Messiah, in the body of Christ, a burden to communicate the need for a greater sense of unity and reconnection in this area between Jewish and Gentile believers in the one new man, otherwise known as the Israel peace. This is in fulfillment of God's end time plans related to the restoration of Israel and the church. But you know, we've been so focused on trying to wave this banner in front of the church, trying to get the church's attention to understand the significance of this connection, that very little has actually been written to help us move into it. I wrote the Romans 911 materials specifically for this purpose, to support the church and the messianic bodies, from our leadership to our intercessors and lay people, to provide a comprehensive study book on this subject. The book and the rest of the materials will help us to fully embrace this reconnection in the one new man by adapting it into our local churches, our congregations, and our communities. Israel's awakening has begun. Since the retaking of Jerusalem in 1967, more Messianic believers are coming to the Lord than ever before. Romans 9:11 fully explains the Father's heart in relation to the reconnection and the great need for this unity now in the one new man to be fully restored in accordance with Ephesians 2, verses 14 to 22. Romans 9:11 simplifies and clarifies this reconnection message as a vital link for God's children from the nations to reconnect with the remnant of Israel and to our Jewish roots and heritage. I also wrote the Romans 9:11 materials to help Jewish believers reconnect spiritually with their Gentile believing family, even as the mystery of Israel's spiritual unveiling and the fullness of souls from the nations comes into being. This is so exciting. I also wanted to introduce to you today the different materials that we'll actually be using with the Romans 911 project. The main book, Romans 911, Time to Sound the Alarm, is written to help us really understand this reconnection and restoration in the family. It's kind of like the nuts and bolts. It also introduces the messianic body to the church and really encourages both the church and the messianic bodies to come together. The book is written in 4 parts. Part 1 addresses the reconnection. Part 2 presents a picture of what it may actually look like. Part 3 deals extensively with the obstacles and hurdles that are keeping us from us on both sides of the family, between believing Jew and believing Gentile. And Part 4 unveils the strategy to help us get there, both corporately and individually. Now, there are 2 other materials that are a vital part of the Romans 911 program. The second is the Reconnection Mandate. This is like a booklet, and there are 5 directives that are written here to help us to move into this restoration. I really want to encourage you to meditate on the Reconnection Mandate directives, because they have become foundational to the Romans 911 project. You know, the project actually took us about 6 years to finish and complete. We started in 2015 and ended right before the Feast of the Lord in 2021. And in the last couple of years of the writings, the Lord had us to prepare the Romans 911 study guide. Now, this is written in tandem with 12 to 14 hours of video teachings that are given both to the Messianic body and the Christian side of the church. And the reason for that is because the issues that separate us from fullness of one new man and complete reconciliation are really quite different when it comes to both the Jewish and the Gentile sides of the family. And so we had to do 2 separate teachings. We wrote part 1 of the teachings and taught those at El Shaddai, Messianic congregation in Maryland, in 2019. And then also part 2 in 2020, and the same with the Christian version, which we taught at IHOP Eastern Gate in 2019 and 2020. And something strategic about the dates. We had very little to do with the planning of the exact dates, except for perhaps the launch of the Romans 911 project, which you can actually find on the homepage of the Reconnecting Ministries website. But beloved, we actually ended up teaching the Messianic teachings in 2019 on the 9th of Av. And for those of you who may not know the significance of the 9th of Av, the 9th of Av is the date that Jewish people remember, I wouldn't say commemorate, but actually remember the destruction of both Solomon's and Herod's temple. And I think what the Lord is saying to us is out of the judgment comes the restoration. And this is really the main focus of the Romans 911 project as God begins to shake the world and even the church. His heart is full of mercy. Judgment begins in the house, but out of that judgment comes an awakening, comes the mercy of the Lord to restore his family and restore his church. And that's what the Romans 911 project is all about. And so the study guide and the video teachings become vital to the Romans 911 project because they really help us to embrace the message. So there you go. There are the materials that we will be using, and you can buy those materials on the Romans 911 website. You can scroll down to our bookshop, and there's some various deals and packages where you can buy both the books and the materials, and the video teachings are actually free with the purchase of the study guide. I want to encourage you to join us next week when we begin to drill down into this message, and we're going to take a serious look at this unique transaction that we call the reconnection message. You can also join some of our other virtual meetings, which are also on our website on the homepage, either reconnectingministries.org or romans911.org. And if this message is resonating with you, please pray about partnering with us and joining our Give High Life campaign. Please also subscribe to the Romans 911 project wherever you listen to podcasts at the end. Beloved, until next week, lots of love in Yeshua, and for his glory, may God richly bless you.